They call him the Earth Shaker. They paint him standing tall on the waves, commanding the storms with a roar. But the ocean is deep, and the surface is only a thin skin. The true kingdom of Poseidon is not the crashing waves above, but the crushing silence below. He is the king of 70% of the world, yet he rules a throne where no voice can speak. Welcome back. Tonight, we are leaving the solid ground behind. We are trading the noise of the cities for the heavy, crushing silence of the deep. We are going to visit three souls who have been waiting in the dark for a very long time. A king who sits alone at the bottom of the world, a monster trapped in the stone, and a captain who is cursed to sail forever. They are the sleepless ones of the ocean. So before we sink any deeper, if you find comfort in these quiet places, leave a like and subscribe to the archives, but only if you truly enjoy the company of the dark. If not, the surface is right there. And tell me in the comments, from which part of the world are you drifting in from tonight? Now, let the pressure take over. Let the weight settle on your shoulders. We begin in the abyss. We begin our descent not on the sunlit beaches of Greece, but far, far deeper, where the blue turns to indigo. We travel to the Hadal zone, the deepest scar in the Earth's crust. Here, sitting upon a throne of cold basalt, is the king. He is not poised to strike. He is not raging. He is simply sitting. He has been sitting here since the oceans were formed, anchored by a gravity that feels heavier than stone. The water here presses against him with the force of 8 tons per square inch. It is a crushing, absolute embrace that never loosens its grip. You can see the weight of it in his hands. They grip the arms of the throne, not in anger, but in resistance, holding himself upright against the eternal downward pull. The skin is pitted by the salt and the centuries. And resting against his shoulder is the trident. It is not the gleaming golden weapon of the cartoons. It is a tool of bronze and iron, corroded by the eons, covered in a thick layer of verdigris and green moss. It has not been raised in anger for a millennium. It simply rests there, a heavy relic of a war that ended long ago. The points of the spear are buried deep in the silt. His chest is broad like the hull of a sunken galleon, rising and falling with a breath that takes centuries to complete. The beard that frames his face is thick and heavy, drifting like the twisting kelp forests of the shallows. But here there is no current to wave it. It hangs suspended, heavy with water, motionless in the absolute calm of the abyss. There is no sun to warm the skin. There is only the cold. The landscape around the throne is a desert of gray silt. It is a flat, featureless plain that stretches out into the infinite darkness. It is the graveyard of the ocean. Everything that dies in the waters above eventually drifts down to this place. The bones of whales, the hulls of ships, the dust of meteorites, it all settles here, covering the floor in a soft, thick blanket of debris. And through the black water, the marine snow falls. It is a ceaseless, gentle precipitation of organic matter, white flakes drifting down from the world of light miles above. It falls in slow motion, taking weeks to reach the bottom. It spirals and drifts, catching the faint ghostly glow of the bioluminescent jellies that float past. It settles on the king's shoulders like winter snow. If you were to look up, you would see nothing. The sun is a myth in this place. The moon is a memory. There is only the miles of black water stacked on top of you. It is a roof that never lifts. The isolation is total. In the palaces of Olympus, there is feasting and music. But here, in the basement of the world, there is only the hum of the tectonic plates grinding together. And Poseidon sits. He is the master of this domain, yet he is also its prisoner. To leave the throne would be to abandon the balance of the world. So he stays. He watches the darkness with eyes that have forgotten the sun. He sees the creatures of the deep, the gulper eels, the translucent squid, but they do not speak to him. They are simple things, driven only by hunger. Imagine the loneliness of a god who outlives his worshippers. The sailors who once poured wine into the sea for him are gone. The temples on the cliffs have crumbled into the surf. The prayers have stopped, and yet the ocean remains. And so the job remains. He sits in the crushing dark, holding the weight of the seas, waiting for a tribute that will never come. The silence is thick. It fills the ears like cotton. It wraps around the mind and slows the thoughts down until they match the rhythm of the tides. There is no urgency here. A crack in the stone armrest might take 1,000 years to widen by an inch. A shift in the sand might take an age. Time does not fly here. It drifts. It floats. His robes are heavy, woven from the darkness itself. They drape over his legs in thick, heavy folds, pooling on the sand like spilled oil. The fabric does not flutter. It is pressed flat by the immense weight of the water column. It binds him to the chair, a garment of gravity that holds him in place. To move would require an effort that could crack the foundations of the earth. He has become part of the geography. He is no longer just a god. He is a mountain range. He is a trench. He is the seabed itself. The coral has begun to grow on the hem of his robe, tiny polyps building their calcium skeletons upon his skin. He does not brush them away. He allows the ocean to claim him. Far in the distance, a hydrothermal vent releases a plume of black smoke. It billows upward in slow motion, a dark cloud rising into a darker sky. It brings heat from the core of the planet, warming the water by a fraction of a degree. It is the only warmth this kingdom knows. A faint, dying heat that is instantly swallowed by the cold miles of the abyss. He listens. He listens to the groaning of the shipwrecks settling into the mud miles away. He listens to the clicking of the whales singing to each other across the basins. He listens to the heartbeat of the world. It is a slow, rhythmic thrumming, thump, 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 slower than a sleeping giant. It is the sound of the planet resting. The darkness presses in closer. The faint bioluminescence fades. The outline of the king begins to blur, merging with the shadows of the trench wall. The distinction between the god and the water disappears. There is only the deep. There is only the heavy, liquid embrace that holds everything in suspension. The surface world feels like a dream from another life. The noise, the fire, the speed of the air, it is all forgotten here. Here there is only the eternal present, the eternal weight, the eternal pressure. It is a cozy kind of misery, a heavy blanket that keeps you safe from the chaos of the light. And so we begin to drift away from the throne. We do not turn our backs, for one does not turn their back on the king of the deep. We simply float backwards, carried by a gentle upwelling current. The figure of Poseidon grows smaller in the gloom, a lonely giant sitting in the center of the void. He does not watch us go. His eyes remain fixed on the darkness before him. He will remain there, holding his breath, holding the trident, holding the weight of the world's oceans on his shoulders, long after we have gone. We leave the pressure behind, we leave the crushing weight, and we step back into the cool shadows. We drift closer to the hand of the king. It is a landscape in itself. The skin is pale, bleached by the eons of darkness and covered in a fine layer of gray silt that has settled there like dust in an abandoned attic. He moves a finger, just a fraction of an inch. The movement is slow, tectonic. It sends a tiny cloud of dust spiraling up into the black water, a small disturbance in the stillness that has lasted for a century. It is the only sign that he is still awake. Small things live in the orbit of his silence. A viperfish, with teeth like glass needles, drifts near his face, navigating by the faint electrical currents of his divine body. It does not know, it swims in the presence of a god. To the fish, he is just a warm current. He is just a feature of the trench. Poseidon feels the tiny displacement of water against his cheek, but he does not turn. He has watched the evolution of every species in the sea, and they are all the same to him now. From the world above, gifts drift down. The wreckage of a wooden ship, broken by a storm 300 years ago, finally reaches the bottom, It settles softly into the mud at his feet. He remembers the ship. He remembers the storm. He remembers the prayers of the sailors as the waves took them. But the prayers were loud, and the silence here is better. He watches the wood settle. He watches the ocean claim it. He is the curator of a museum that no one visits. The gold of the galleons, the bronze of the triremes, the iron of the battleships, it all belongs to him in the end. He keeps it safe. In the world of men, iron rusts and wood rots, but here, in the anaerobic dark, things are preserved. They are frozen in the cold amber of the deep. He guards the history of the world's failures, and he finds a strange comfort in their broken shapes. The pressure is a constant physical weight. It presses against his chest, forcing the breath to be shallow and slow. Inhale, wait for the season to change. Exhale. The rhythm is hypnotic. It is the rhythm of hibernation. He is not sleeping, but he is not fully awake. He exists in the gray twilight between consciousness and coma, a state of suspended animation where the mind can wander for 1,000 miles without the body moving an inch. His weapon, the trident, has become a crutch. He leans his weight upon it. Once he used it to split mountains and create springs of fresh water. Now it just anchors him against the current. The metal communicates with the earth. Through the shaft of the spear, he can feel the vibrations of the magma moving miles beneath the crust. He feels the planet turning. He feels the grind of the plates. He is connected to the machinery of the world. And in this silence, he remembers the horses. He created them, you know. He made them from the sea foam and gave them to the land. He remembers the sound of hooves on dry grass. He remembers the wind in their manes. Sometimes, in the deep dark, the white foam of a breaking wave looks like a galloping stallion to him. But he cannot follow them. He belongs to the heavy water, and they belong to the air. It is a separation that never heals. The solitude is absolute. In Olympus, Zeus has his eagles and his lightning. Hera has her peacocks. But Poseidon chose the realm where light cannot survive. He chose the basement. Perhaps he was tired of the bickering. Perhaps he wanted a place where no one could ask him for favors. Here in the trench, there are no petitions. There is only the hydrostatic pressure, squeezing the noise out of the universe. The water around his skin is warm, heated by the divine blood that flows through his veins. It creates a thin layer of insulation, a cocoon of warmth in the freezing void. He wraps himself in it. He pulls the ocean around him like a heavy, wet blanket. It is heavy, yes, but it is also safe. Nothing can hurt you when you are at the bottom. You cannot fall any further. You are grounded. His eyes begin to close, not in sleep, but in rest. The effort of keeping them open against the darkness is too much. Why watch the dark when it never changes? So he lets the heavy lids slide down. He lets the visual world disappear completely. Now there is only sensation. The cold on his nose, the pressure on his shoulders, the vibration in his hands. He becomes a creature of touch. And the darkness takes him. It swallows the outline of his shoulders. It fills the space between his fingers. He is no longer a separate entity from the water. He is the water. He is the deep current that flows around the world. He is the cold upwelling that chills the surface. To be a god of the sea is to lose your shape, to become fluid, to become vast and formless and deep. The centuries drift by like plankton. Time means nothing here. 1,000 years is just a long afternoon. Empires rise and fall on the surface. Rome, Byzantium, the modern world, and he does not shift in his seat. They are just momentary ripples on the surface of his pond. He waits for them to end. He knows that eventually the water rises. Eventually everything returns to him. He is patient. The ocean is the definition of patience. It wears down the cliffs one grain of sand at a time. Poseidon embodies this slow, destructive patience. He sits, he waits, he breathes, and the world turns above him, frantic and loud and short-lived while he remains constant, the anchor of the world, the ballast in the hold of the earth. The light from our presence is fading now. We have disturbed the king long enough. The silt we kicked up is beginning to settle back down, covering his hands once more. The bioluminescent fish are drifting away, returning to the black. The silence is rushing back in to fill the space we left behind. He does not stir as we leave. He does not open his eyes. He stays in his chair at the bottom of the world, holding the roof up with his presence. He is the lonely king, the silent watcher, the god of the pressure and the dark. And he is content there. He is content in the place where the weight is heavy enough to hold him still. We rise, we leave the Hadal zone, we leave the crushing tons of water behind us. We float upwards, lighter and lighter, leaving the burden with him. He can carry it. He was built to carry it. We were not. We return to the shallows, leaving the deep to its master. The memory of his face fades into the gloom. The image of the trident buried in the mud becomes a blur. There is only the water now, cool, dark, endless water, drifting, flowing, wrapping around us as we ascend. The heavy blanket is lifted, the pressure eases, but the feeling of the deep remains, a slow, heavy calmness that settles in the bones, a reminder of the quiet that waits at the bottom of everything, a reminder that there's a place where the noise stops. We leave Poseidon to his eternal vigil. We leave the Mariana Trench to its silence. The king is on his throne and the ocean is still, and we drift away further and further into the quiet. And we leave the endless ocean behind, stepping back into the cool shadows, ready to find the next shore. We leave the crushing silence of the abyss. We leave the king on his throne of basalt. We rise, drifting up through the miles of water, past the midnight zone, past the twilight zone, until we break the surface. But the air here is not warm. It is thick with salt and fog. We have traveled to the narrowest strip of water in the ancient world, the Strait of Messina. Here, the sea is squeezed between the land masses of Italy and Sicily. The current is fast and treacherous, ripping through the narrow channel like a river in flood. And here, fused into the side of the sheer cliff, living inside the damp rock, is Scylla. She is not the monster the sailors fear. She is the prisoner of the strait. She is the rock itself, bleeding into the sea. Once, she was a nymph. She walked on the white sands. She bathed in the pools of clear water. But the jealousy of the witch Circe poisoned her cove, and the magic twisted her form. Now, she is something else. From the waist up, she retains the memory of her beauty. Pale skin, long dark hair wet with the sea spray. But she cannot leave. She is rooted here. The stone has grown over her legs, binding her to the cliff face for eternity. And below the waist, the tragedy manifests. Where her legs should be, there are the heads of 6 beasts. The myths call them dogs, but in the dim light of the cave, they look more like sleeping wolves. They are not barking. They are not snapping. They are tired. They rest their heads on the wet stones, their eyes closed, letting out low, rhythmic whimpers that sound like the wind whistling through a crack in the wall. Scylla does not move. She leans back against the cold, damp wall of her cave, staring out at the gray horizon. The water drips from the ceiling. Drip, drip, drip. Landing on her skin, running down her cheek like tears that never stop. She has felt every storm that has passed through this strait for 3,000 years. She has tasted the salt of every wave. The boredom is a physical weight. Imagine standing in a doorway waiting for a guest who never arrives. Now imagine waiting for 1,000 years. Most days, the strait is empty. There are no Greek galleys, no heroes, no Odysseus. There's just the fog, rolling in thick and white, obscuring the view of the other side. There's just the gray water, churning and boiling in the current. The beasts at her waist are restless, but they, too, are bound by the lethargy of the place. They shift and groan, dreaming of the hunt, but they cannot leave the rock. They are extensions of her own cursed body, a constant reminder of what was taken from her. She pets them absently, her pale hands stroking the wet fur of the monsters, soothing them back into a fitful sleep. The cave smells of brine and old seaweed. The walls are coated in a thick layer of slick green algae and clusters of sharp black mussels. The tide rises and falls, filling the lower half of the cave with freezing water, then draining away again. It is a cycle of wet and cold, wet and cold. Her skin is permanently pruned, soaked in the ocean, never fully dry, never fully warm. Across the narrow strip of water, barely visible through the mist, lies her only neighbor, Charybdis, the great whirlpool. Scylla can hear the low sucking roar as her counterpart drinks down the tide 3 times a day. Whoosh, gurgle, silence. They are sisters in isolation, 2 cursed entities trapped within shouting distance, yet they never speak. The roar of the water drowns out all conversation. To pass the time, she watches the debris, a broken oar, a barrel, a tangle of net. She watches them drift by, carried by the swift current. She tracks their progress with her eyes, calculating the speed of the water. It is a small mental game, a way to keep the mind sharp when the body is petrified. She counts the waves, she counts the seagulls, she counts the stars when the fog lifts. Night is the hardest. The sun provides no warmth here, but at least it marks the passage of time. The night is endless. The moon casts a pale, sickly light on the water, turning the whitecaps into ghosts. Scylla pulls her knees, or what remains of them, closer to her chest. The cold radiates from the stone, seeping into her marrow. It is a deep geological chill that no fire could ever thaw. Sometimes she dreams of the sand. She dreams of the way the sun used to feel on her legs when she had legs. She dreams of Glaucus, the sea god who loved her and whose love brought this curse down upon her. But the dreams are fading. The memories are being eroded by the salt, washed away like footprints in the surf. She is forgetting who she was. She is becoming only what she is. From the water, she looks like a part of the geology. A sailor passing by might mistake her for a trick of the light, a formation of stalagmites that looks like a woman. And perhaps she is. Perhaps the woman is gone, and there is only the hunger of the rock, the hunger to be known, the hunger to be seen. But the ships are smart now. They stay in the center of the channel. They stay away. Life continues around her. Barnacles cement themselves to her skin. Small crabs scuttle across the sleeping heads of the wolf dogs. Moss grows in the hollow of her collarbone. She has become an ecosystem, a stationary reef in the middle of the air. She does not brush them away. Why would she? They are the only things that touch her without fear. The fog thickens. It rolls into the cave like a soft white blanket, dampening the sound of the waves. The world shrinks. Now there is no Italy, no Sicily, no Charybdis. There is only the 3 feet of space in front of her face. The isolation becomes absolute. It is a white room of mist, cold and silent. She leans her head back. The rough stone scratches her scalp, a sensation that is grounding, real. She closes her eyes and listens to the breathing of the dogs at her waist. In, out, in, out. Their breath is warm against her skin. It is a strange comfort, this monstrous company. They are the only family she has left. The current rushes past. It never stops. It never slows down. It is a river of energy flowing past a statue of sorrow. She envies the water. The water gets to go places. The water gets to leave the strait, to travel to the open ocean, to touch the shores of Egypt and Spain. She remains, a lighthouse with no light, a harbor with no ships. She traces the cracks in the stone with a fingernail that has grown long and sharp. She knows every fissure, every bump, every texture of her prison. She has memorized the geography of her confinement better than any cartographer. It is a small world, but it is hers. And so she waits. She waits for a ship that might break the monotony. She waits for the tide to change. She waits for the erosion to finally claim the cliff and drop her into the sea. But stones are patient, and monsters are resilient. She will be here when the stars change their positions. We leave her in the mist. We leave her to her counting, and her watching, and her waiting. The fog wraps around the cliff, hiding the tragedy from view. The sound of the water swallows the whimpering of the wolves, and we drift on. She remembers the poison. It is a memory that burns brighter than the rest. She remembers the pool where she used to bathe, the crystal clear water that felt like silk against her skin. And she remembers the day the water changed, the day Circe, the witch of Aea, poured her jealousy into the spring. It wasn't a violent explosion, it was a silent corruption. The water turned thick, it turned heavy. She remembers the sensation of her legs dissolving. It didn't hurt, not exactly. It felt like falling asleep. It felt like the bones were melting into wax, reshaping themselves into something new, something hungry. She tried to run to the shore, but her feet were gone. In their place were the heads of the wolves, yelping and snapping at the air, confused by their own sudden existence. Now they are her constant companions. She cannot separate her mind from theirs. When they are hungry, she feels the hollow ache in her own stomach. When they are cold, she shivers. They are a chorus of instincts that she cannot silence. 6 pairs of eyes looking for movement in the water. 6 noses sniffing the damp air for the scent of blood or tar or wet wood. Sometimes a ship passes. A merchant vessel, heavy with amphorae of wine and oil, hugging the center line of the strait. She watches it. The wolves wake up, their ears perking forward, a low growl vibrating through her hips. But the ship is too far. To reach it would require stretching her body until the skin tears, until the stone cracks. It is too much effort. So she hushes them. Shh, sleep now. It is just wood and wind. She looks at her reflection in the tide pools. The face that stares back is still the face of the nymph who Glaucus loved. The eyes are still wide and dark, the lips are still full. But there is a hardness there now. The salt has cured her skin like leather. The wind has etched fine lines around her mouth. She is becoming less like a girl, and more like the cliff itself, eroded, weathered, enduring. Glaucus never came back. The sea god who started this war of hearts simply moved on. That is the nature of the gods. They are fluid. They flow around obstacles and find new paths. But Scylla is solid. She is fixed. She is the obstacle. She wonders, sometimes, if he even remembers the girl who used to sit on the rocks and comb her hair, or if she is just another hazard on his nautical charts now. A seagull lands on a nearby ledge. The wolf heads snap. A reflex action, fast as a whip. The bird is gone in a flurry of white feathers before they can close their jaws. Scylla sighs. The energy expenditure was wasted. The hunger remains. It is a dull background thrumming, like the sound of the waves. It is never fully satisfied, but never sharp enough to kill her. It just is. Winter comes to the strait. The sky turns the color of bruised iron. The wind howls through the narrow gap, screaming like a banshee. The waves crash against her legs, smashing the wolf heads against the rocks. She has to hold on to the cliff face with bleeding fingers just to stay upright. The spray freezes on her eyelashes. It is a season of violence and noise where sleep is impossible. She learns to hibernate. She learns to slow her heart rate down until it matches the slow pulse of the winter ocean. She retreats into the deepest recesses of her mind, ignoring the cold that bites at her skin. She thinks of warm things, fire, wool, sand heated by the noon sun. She builds a palace of memory in her head and lives there while the storm rages outside. And then the spring returns. The sun breaks through the clouds, weak and watery. Steam rises from her wet skin as the warmth touches her. The moss on her shoulders blooms with tiny white flowers. It is a cruel beauty. The world is waking up, but she is still stuck in the nightmare. The seasons change, the tides turn, but the rock holds her fast. She has started to name the rocks. There is the jagged one that looks like a tooth. She calls it Odon. There is the smooth one that holds the morning dew. She calls it Kipello. It is a small madness, giving names to inanimate things, but it gives her a sense of control. If she can name her prison, perhaps she can understand it. Perhaps she can master it. Across the water, Charybdis belches. A massive plume of water sprays into the air as the whirlpool reverses its flow. Scylla watches the spray catch the light. It creates a momentary rainbow, a bridge of color connecting the monster of the rock to the monster of the deep. For a second, there is a connection. Then the mist fades, and the gray returns. Her body has adapted to the stone. The skin on her back has grown thick and callous, like the hide of a rhinoceros, to protect her from the sharp edges of the cliff. Her fingers have elongated, the nails curving into hooks that can grip the slime-covered walls. She is evolving. She is becoming less human with every century. The nymph is dying and the creature is taking over. She wonders if she is immortal. The gods are, usually, but she was changed. Is this body designed to last forever? Or will the stone eventually outlast the flesh? Will she erode away, leaving only the 6 skulls of the wolves embedded in the cliff face? It is a comforting thought, an end, a finality. She prays to Thanatos, the quiet god, but he does not visit the strait. The sun begins to set, the water turns the color of bruised plums, then deep purple, then black. The lighthouse of Messina begins to blink in the distance, a man-made star that mocks her with its freedom. She watches the light rotate. Flash, dark, flash, dark. It is another rhythm to count, another way to measure the infinite. The wolves begin to sing. It is not a howl of aggression, but a low, mournful keening that harmonizes with the wind. Aru! It echoes off the canyon walls, a song of pure loneliness. Scylla joins them, humming a melody she remembers from her childhood. The voice is rusty, unused, but it weaves into the song of the beasts, creating a lullaby for the damned. The fog returns, faithful as a lover. It wraps around her shoulders, hiding her from the moon. It muffles the sound of the lighthouse. The world narrows down again. The dampness seeps into her lungs. She breathes it in. It tastes of salt and ancient water. This is her air. This is her life. There is nothing else. She is tired. The kind of tired that sleeps in the marrow of the bones. The kind of tired that comes from holding yourself upright against gravity for 3 millennia. She lets her head drop. She lets the tension leave her shoulders. The stone will hold her. The stone always holds her. We leave her to her rest. We leave the monster of the rock to her dreams of the sand. The strait is quiet now. The ships have docked. The sailors are asleep in their warm beds, unaware of the woman who watches the dark for them. The legend fades back into the mist. The Scylla fades to gray. The rock and the flesh become one in the shadows, and we drift toward the final destination, the ghost who sails forever. We leave the strait behind. We leave the monster fused to the rock, and we travel further into the open ocean. We move south, past the equator, past the warm waters, down to the tip of Africa. The Cape of Good Hope, a place where the Atlantic meets the Indian Ocean and where the storms never truly end. The fog here is thick. It smells of ozone and old electricity. Out of the mist, a shape emerges. It is a ship, a merchant vessel from a golden age that has long since turned to rust. The wood is black, soaked with the salt water of 3 centuries. The sails are tattered, shredded by the gales, yet they hold the wind with a supernatural strength. They glow with a faint, reddish phosphorescence, casting a bloody light on the churning water below. This is the Dutchman. And at the wheel stands the captain, Hendrik van der Decken. He is not a skeleton. He is not a sheet-covered ghost. He is a man who has been awake for 400 years. His skin is the texture of cured leather, beaten by the salt spray and the sun. His eyes are red-rimmed and hollow, staring fixedly at the compass. He grips the wheel with a desperation that has become a habit. He is turning the ship into the wind. He is trying to round the Cape. That was the vow he made, to sail around the Cape of Good Hope, even if it took him until doomsday. And the ocean heard him. The wind is always against him, a headwind that screams through the rigging, pushing the ship back, forcing him to tack and turn and fight for every inch of progress. It is the ultimate grind. The work is never done. The crew are there too. Silent shapes moving in the gloom. They pull the ropes, they scrub the decks, they climb the ratlines, but there is no purpose to their labor. The ropes are frayed, the deck is always wet, the sails are always torn. They are caught in a loop of maintenance, fixing a ship that is destined to rot but forbidden to sink. They move with the sluggish, heavy movements of men who are drowning in fatigue. The captain does not shout. He does not curse anymore. He ran out of curses 2 centuries ago. Now he just steers. Left, right, steady. He reads the waves like a book he has memorized. He knows exactly how the ship will shudder when the prow hits the trough. He knows exactly how the wood will groan. It is a symphony of creaks and snaps that has been playing in his ears since the year 1641. The ship is alive with a cold fire. St. Elmo's fire dances along the yardarms, a blue-green plasma that crackles in the humid air. It illuminates the rot. The wood is soft, spongy with age. If you were to touch the railing, your finger would sink into the damp timber. It smells of sulfur and stagnant water, a smell that clings to the clothes and the hair and never washes out. He checks the map. The parchment is soaked, the ink has run, but he doesn't need to see the lines. He knows where he is. He is always almost there. That is the cruelty of the curse. He can see the headland. He can see the Table Mountain in the distance, a dark shape against the horizon. It is always just a few miles away, but as he sails toward it, the wind shifts. The current pushes him back. Sometimes they see other ships, modern tankers, steel giants that cut through the waves, or old clippers from the tea trade, but the other ships always turn away. They see the red glow of the Dutchman's sails and they change course. He is a bad omen, a harbinger of doom. He watches them leave, his hand raised halfway in a wave that turns into a shrug. He cannot signal them. There is a legend that the crew tries to pass letters to passing ships, letters to their wives in Amsterdam, letters to their children in Rotterdam. But the wives are dead, the children are dust, the cities have changed. The letters sit in a leather bag on the quarterdeck, the ink fading, the paper turning to mush. Messages to a world that has forgotten them. The fatigue is a physical presence. It hangs on the captain's shoulders like a wet wool coat. His eyelids are heavy. He wants to sleep. He wants to lie down in a bunk that doesn't rock. He wants to walk on ground that doesn't pitch and roll. But the wheel needs him. The ocean needs him. If he lets go, the ship might capsize, and while they cannot die, they can still feel the terror of the drowning. The wake of the ship stretches out behind them, a glowing green scar in the water. It is a record of their futility. They are sailing in circles, carving the same path through the water over and over again. The ocean erases their progress as soon as they make it. The waves wash over the wake, smoothing it out, resetting the board for another day of struggle. The sails snap and boom. Crack, crack, crack. It is the heartbeat of the ship. The canvas is red, dyed by the atmosphere, or perhaps by the curse itself. It looks like dried blood against the storm clouds. The wind fills them, pushing the ship forward, giving them the illusion of speed, the illusion of purpose. But they are running on a treadmill of water. Time is broken here. There is no Monday or Tuesday. There is only the watch, the morning watch, the dog watch, the night watch. The sun rises on the port side, sets on the starboard side, and rises again. The captain has watched the sun rise 100,000 times. It brings no warmth. It only brings the light which reveals the gray horizon once more. The bell rings, not because a sailor rang it, but because the sea demands it. The sway of the ship sends the clapper against the bronze rim. Clang, clang, it is a lonely sound. It drifts out over the water, lost in the roar of the wind. No one is coming to answer it. It is a doorbell ringing in an empty house. The waves here are giants, rogue waves 80 feet high, walls of water that block out the sky. The Dutchman climbs them. The bow rises up, up, up until the ship is almost vertical. Then it crashes down into the valley on the other side. The stomach drops, the wood screams, and then they do it again and again and again. It is a roller coaster that you cannot get off. He watches the albatross glide overhead. The bird barely moves its wings. It uses the wind that fights the ship to carry itself effortlessly. The captain envies the bird. It can land, it can nest, it can die. He watches it circle the mast once, twice, and then peel away toward the coast. He follows it with his eyes until it is just a speck. The storm intensifies. It is always intensifying. The sky turns from gray to black. Lightning forks down, illuminating the deck in harsh, strobe light flashes. For a second, you can see the faces of the crew, pale, drawn, expressionless. Then the dark returns. They do not flinch at the thunder. They are part of the storm now. The rain falls harder. It washes the salt from the deck, only to be replaced by fresh spray. It soaks the captain's coat. He does not feel the cold anymore. He is numb. He is a statue of flesh and bone fused to the wheel. He is simply waiting. Waiting for the wind to change, waiting for the curse to lift, waiting for the silence. We watch the ship sail into the squall. It moves with a heavy, tragic grace. It does not fight the sea. It endures it. The red sails glow dimly in the rain, a beacon for no one. The Flying Dutchman continues its voyage to nowhere, and we drift behind it, caught in the wake of its eternal passage. The ship moves further into the gray curtain of the rain. It is not escaping the storm. It is carrying the storm with it. The captain does not look back. He knows we are watching, perhaps, but he does not care. His world is the compass and the wheel. The rest of the universe is just a shadow that falls across his deck. He sails on, piercing the veil of the mist. The hull of the ship groans one last time. Creak! It is the sound of old bones settling into a familiar position. The wood has absorbed so much water that it is becoming liquid itself. The ship is no longer floating on the ocean. It is part of the ocean. It is a dense wooden wave that never breaks, traveling forever across the surface of the deep. The stern lantern swings in a slow, hypnotic arc. Left, right, left, right. The yellow light struggles against the overpowering dark of the Atlantic night. It flickers, it dims. It is a tiny star in a galaxy of black water. It marks the position of the ghost, a warning to sailors who are already asleep in their bunks miles away. Vanderdecken stands at his post. He is the eternal watchman. He does not need rest. He does not need food. He only needs the horizon. The curse keeps him upright, locking his knees, freezing his hands to the spokes. He is a monument to stubbornness, sailing against the wind of God until the oceans dry up and the stars burn out. The red sails flap, but the sound is muffled now. The distance is growing. The roar of the wind becomes a whisper. The crash of the waves becomes a murmur. The violence of the storm is fading into a dull, rhythmic thrumming that sounds like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The ship is sailing out of our story. It is becoming a memory, a legend told in the taverns of Cape Town, a ghost story whispered by grandmothers. The reality of the wood and the iron is dissolving into the mist. The Dutchman is gone. He has rounded the cape in his own mind, perhaps. Or perhaps he is still there, just beyond the edge of our vision, sailing in the eternal gray. The ocean is empty again. The wake has vanished. The green glow has faded. There is only the water, the endless, indifferent water that swallows ships and men and curses alike. It rolls on, heavy and cold, covering the world in a blanket of silence. The stage is cleared. The actors have departed. The rain continues to fall. It pocks the surface of the sea with a billion tiny impacts. Patter, patter, patter. It is a soothing sound, a white noise that washes away the tension. The drama of the curse is over. Now there is only the weather, the simple, repetitive weather of the open sea. The clouds move slowly across the face of the moon. They are heavy with rain, dark and swollen. They drift without hurry, carried by the stratospheric winds. They block the light, turning the world into a soft, charcoal gray. There is no need for light now. There is nothing left to see. The horizon dissolves. The line between the sky and the sea is gone. It is all one vast, dark space, a space for resting, a space for drifting. We have followed the king to the trench, the monster to the rock, and the ghost to the storm. Now we stop following, we stop moving, we let them go. The fog is here. It is thick and soft. It wraps around the world like wool. The air is heavy with moisture. It is cool against the skin, cool and damp and still. The mist drifts and curls and settles. There is no direction in the mist. There is no up or down, only the drifting white haze. The water is calm. The waves have smoothed out into long, slow swells. They rise and fall like the chest of a sleeping giant, up and down, up and down. The rhythm is slow. The rhythm is steady. The ocean is breathing, deep, slow breaths that rock the world to sleep. The rain is soft. It is a whisper in the dark. It washes everything clean. It washes away the thoughts. It washes away the day. The sound is constant, a gentle, endless drumming that blocks out the silence. It is a shield of sound, a heavy curtain of water that keeps the world away. The sky is dark, a deep velvet black that has no bottom. It hangs over the water, heavy and comforting. It is a roof that protects you. The stars are hidden. The moon is hidden. There is only the dark, the safe, quiet dark. It presses down gently, weighing down the eyelids. The body is heavy, the arms are heavy, the legs are heavy, sinking into the mattress, sinking into the sand, sinking into the deep. The gravity is strong here. It pulls you down, it pulls you into the warmth. There is no need to move. There is no need to think. The stone is still. The silence is full. It fills the ears, it fills the mind. It is a thick, warm silence, like being underwater, like being underground. The noise of the surface is gone. The noise of the ship is gone. There is only the quiet hum of the earth, the slow vibration of the deep. Drifting deeper, drifting further. The current takes you. It carries you gently. You are floating, weightless, suspended in the dark. The water is warm. The air is still. Everything is slow. Everything is soft. Everything is quiet. The night is long. The night is yours. There is nothing to do until the sun rises. The watch is over. The work is finished. The tools are down. The hands are open. The breath is slow. In and out. In and out. Resting now, sleeping now. The ocean covers everything. The fog covers everything. The dark covers everything. You are safe in the quiet places. You are safe in the deep. And so the tale is told, and the ocean is still, and we rest.